And we were talking about sort of the things that are still in the DNA of the two parties, that the Republicans fall in line and the Democrats sort of wait to fall. I think they largely love Joe Biden and what he's done, but they want to be more madly in love with someone or something. And it was on display last night. I mean, Donald Trump has all of this resistance. He's losing like 35 to 50% of the primary voters. And Mitch McConnell falls in line after Trump assailed his wife with a racist attack. You could Joe Biden. I mean, and you crack me up with, Biden wins 98% and then like 2% goes uncommitted. And Democrats are still wringing their hands like, well, I don't know, will Newsom get in? But it is bonkers. Can you make sense of that for me?
I mean, there's two different things going on in the two different parties, right? The Democrats are renominating an incumbent president who has been a very successful president. He's not the world's most popular president, but he's been very successful. Lots of bipartisan legislation. All the stuff he said he wanted to get done, he's mostly gotten done. We've got this really best-in-class economic recovery post-COVID of all of the big countries in the world. Everything that he's set out to do, he's done, and he's kind of done it on the terms he said he was going to do it. Joe Biden got in there saying, listen, I'm going to be the president for everybody and expect all my big legislative stuff to be bipartisan. And that's exactly what he's done. So the Democratic Party is like marching down the middle lane of Normalville, right? The Republican Party is engaged in a different project. And there's a reason that nobody in the Republican Party cares that the Republican-controlled Congress isn't making any policy, say. There's a reason nobody knows what Donald Trump's policy is on Gaza, say. There's a reason nobody in the Republican Party is contesting what's going on with Joe Biden because they have a different idea for what we should be doing on infrastructure. There's just no governing talk happening at all in the Republican Party. It's instead about this idea that America is a disaster. America's in decline. America's being laughed at. America is humiliated. And there must be extreme measures taken to fundamentally change the course of the country or we're all going to die. Those are just two different things. And what that latter thing is, the reason you've been doing this series on autocracy, is not the project of a governing party. It's a project of a party that is trying to get rid of the form of government that we have and install something else.
But where I lose the plot is that the Republicans are to the degree that the country's in any decline, it is the threat of a second Trump turn. I had former Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull on, and I said, will we still be part of the Five Eyes intelligence sharing? And he said, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, America becoming a threat, which is what it becomes, a threat to the world order if Trump is reelected, is a known, to quote Don Rumsfeld. It is a known. And I don't know if former Defense Secretary Mattis or Mark Milley will come out and say those things, but everyone in the national security establishment who worked in and was around the Trump term will tell you that. And what they would say privately and by the end publicly is America can survive one Trump term. It won't survive a second. That is a fact of the view of those who were tasked with protecting our national security during his presidency before, and probably some are still in those agencies. And yet, Mitch McConnell, who has access to, if I have access to that information, Mitch McConnell does too, endorsed Trump today.
Because the Republican Party is engaged in a group decision that they are trying to change what the United States is, right? I mean, if you want to support the idea of America as a democracy, we are a multiracial, pluralistic society with lots of different kinds of people and economic freedom and all of the other civil society things that support us being a big, complex society. It's really hard to have, for centuries, a pluralistic, egalitarian democracy. There are very few of these in the history of the world. And if you don't want that, if you don't want everybody to have a say, for us to decide what we're going to do based on democratically held, free and fair elections, then you have a party here. I mean, when Trump used violence and fraud and intimidation to try to throw out election results and stay in power anyway, the response of the Republican Party was not to be horrified. For the most part, the response of the elected and leading Republican Party was to figure out how they could help him get away with it. And McConnell, this brief and shining moment where he orchestrated the acquittal of Trump in the Senate so that Trump would not be banned from holding federal office ever again, because he said the courts will take care of it. And then all the justices who he orchestrated getting onto the court, said, no, we are not going to take care of it. And now McConnell.
And we're going to make sure that that Judge Chutkan's, I mean, we're going to make sure that no court can take
the courts will not save us here. The only thing that will save us here is if what I believe is the pro-democracy supermajority in this country decides we're not only going to stand up for democracy in the abstract by saying nice things about it, we're actually going to use our democracy to stop this iteration of the Republican Party from getting rid of it. The Republicans have to not be counted on to sort of do this themselves. We can all see what's happening in the Republican Party now. There was a primary, didn't work out to oust Donald Trump. There was a chance for leaders like Mitch McConnell to literally have Donald Trump barred from ever holding federal office again. They didn't do it. We saw Republicans on the courts who have lifetime tenure and are therefore protected from the kinds of blowback that other politicians might be worried about, nevertheless get in line behind their partisan patrons. The Republican Party will not save us here. We cannot wait for the Republican Party to wake up. Nothing is going to happen inside the Republican Party other than efforts to get Donald Trump what he wants, which is to get rid of our form of government. The only way the country gets saved is if Republicans are blocked by the democratic process because Democrats win instead. That's the only thing left to us.
What is it like? I mean, I always try to get an answer to this question because it sort of, I'm burning with curiosity about it. But what is it like for lifelong progressives to have to hold space for Republicans to be in their coalition if all they have in common is a love for our democracy?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I have always felt like, you know, I'm a liberal and as liberal as they come and always have been. But I've always felt like I had more in common with people who care about what happens to the country than people who don't care, who are checked out, who don't think it matters. Even if you have radically different ideas.
I mean, I'm thinking of your interview with Liz Cheney as you're talking. Yeah, like come back so we can fight about stuff later, but...
there is nothing on which I agree with Liz Cheney. Like even the easy stuff we don't agree on. Like we both fish. I hate the way she fishes. You know, I mean, not exactly, but you know what I mean? I mean, it's absolutely everything. But if you care about the future of our country, that is grounds for us to work together. But I do think we have to recognize after Super Tuesday last night, after Mitch McConnell today, now with Nikki Haley out of the race, I really, and now with the Republican appointees on the courts doing what they have done at the highest court in the land, I really think we need to get clear about the fact that the project of the Republican Party is to install a strongman form of government in the United States and get rid of democracy. And that is the project of electing Donald Trump. And that's what the Republican Party is for now. And so if you have been part of the Republican Party, you have to recognize that that's now the new project of your party. And you may need to leave that party now in order to work with the rest of Americans who disagree with you on a lot of different things, but who want our country to stay a democracy. And that, we're just in that extreme a place.
And how do you unbraid how tongue-tied Democrats get trying to communicate that? They want to bring their white papers and they want to solve all the policy. How do you make them just say that?
I mean, you just say it, right? I mean, you just do your best. Nicole, I feel like one of the things that is... that we keep coming back to, and I so appreciate you being willing to talk about like the big, deep, dark stuff alongside the daily news.
It's all I want to talk about. When they're like, there's breaking news, I'm like, just wait a minute. I'll do that. I got 2 hours.
I have a historian who I want to talk to.
I was desperate to get to Tim Snyder yesterday. They're like, but Super Tuesday. I'm like, all right, fine.
But Tim Snyder was brilliant.
He's the best.
I mean, listen, I feel like the reason that I've been spending the last year and a half basically just reading history all the time is because what we've learned from history is that no, there isn't a magic bullet. The courts don't save you. No individual institution saves you, all that stuff. But what does save you, what people count on, what matters is for us to all keep making the case.
Right.
Explain how authoritarianism works. Explain why strongman appeals sound great but aren't a good idea. Right. Explain what happens when democracies used to be democracies, gave that away, and then never were able to get it back. Just keep talking about what we know is true. And I believe in the American people that we are capable of learning. We are capable of reassessing what we thought we knew. And I believe we're capable of repentance and redemption. I do. And there's no other shortcut around it.
I mean,